History is dabbed with pestilences and diseases, yet a specific number of them stand apart as interesting for their seriousness and effect on the people in the future. This is a rundown of the most noticeably terrible diseases in man's written history. The principal indications of plague in Moscow showed up in late 1770, which would transform into a significant scourge in the spring of 1771. The measures embraced by the specialists, for example, production of constrained isolates, annihilation of debased property without pay or control, shutting of public showers, and so on, caused dreaded outrage among the residents. The city's economy was generally incapacitated on the grounds that numerous processing plants, markets, stores, and managerial structures had been shut down. The entirety of this was trailed by intense food deficiencies, causing weakening of day-to-day environments for most of the Muscovites. Dvoryan, Russian honorability, and well-off city occupants left Moscow because of the plague episode. On the morning of September 17, 1771, around 1,000 individuals accumulated at the Spasskaya entryways once more, requesting the arrival of caught agitators and end of isolates. The military figured out how to scatter the group once more, lastly stifled the uproar. Exactly 300 individuals were brought to preliminary. An administration commission headed by Gregory Orlov was shipped off Moscow on September 26 to re-establish request. It took a few measures against the plague and gave residents work and food, which would at last mollify individuals of Moscow. The Great Plague of Marseille was quite possibly the main European flare-ups of bubonic plague in the mid-18th century. Showing up in Marseille, France in 1720, the sickness executed 100,000 individuals in the city and the encompassing territories. In any case, Marseille recuperated rapidly from the plague flare-up. Financial action required a couple of years to recuperate, as exchange extended toward the West Indies and Latin America. By 1765, the developing populace was once again at its pre-1720 level. This scourge was not a repeat of the European Black Death, the overwhelming scenes of bubonic plague which started in the 14th century. Endeavors to stop the spread of plague incorporated an Act of Parliament of Aix that required capital punishment for any correspondence among Marseille and the remainder of Provence. To authorize this partition, a plague divider, the Mur de la Peste, was raised across the open country, presented previously. The Antonine Plague, otherwise called the Plague of Galen, who portrayed it, was an antiquated pandemic of one or the other smallpox or measles, taken back to the Roman Empire by troops getting back from crusades in the Near East. The scourge killed 2 Roman sovereigns, Lucius Verus, who passed on in 169, and his co-official who managed until 180, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, whose family name, Antoninus, was given to the pestilence. The illness broke out again 9 years after the fact, as per the Roman student of history Dio Cassius, and caused up to 2,000 passings per day at Rome, 1/4 of those tainted. Complete passings have been assessed at 5 million. Infections slaughtered as much as 33% of the populace in certain regions, and pulverized the Roman armed force. The pandemic had extraordinary social and political impacts all through the Roman Empire, especially in writing and craftsmanship. Presented above is a plague pit containing the remaining parts of individuals who kicked the bucket in the Antonine Plague. The Plague of Athens was an overwhelming pandemic which hit the city territory of Athens and antiquated Greece during the second year of the Peloponnesian War, 430 BC, when an Athenian triumph actually appeared reachable. It is accepted to have entered Athens through Piraeus, the city's port and sole wellspring of food and supplies. The city-province of Sparta, and a significant part of the eastern Mediterranean, was likewise struck by the sickness. The plague returned twice more, in 429 BC and in the colder time of year of 427-6 BC. Current antiquarians differ on whether the plague was a basic factor in the deficiency of the war. In any case, it is for the most part concurred that the deficiency of this war may have prepared for the accomplishment of the Macedonians and, at last, the Romans. The infection has customarily been viewed as an episode of the bubonic plague in its numerous structures. However, recontemplations of the revealed side effects and the study of disease transmission have driven researchers to propel elective clarifications. These incorporate typhus, smallpox, measles, and harmful stun disorder. The Plague of Athens was an overwhelming pandemic which hit the city territory of Athens and antiquated Greece during the second year of the Peloponnesian War, 430 BC, when an Athenian triumph actually appeared reachable. It is accepted to have entered Athens through Piraeus, the city's port and sole wellspring of food and supplies. The city-province of Sparta, and a significant part of the eastern Mediterranean, was likewise struck by the sickness. The plague returned twice more, in 429 BC and in the colder time of year of 427-6 BC. Current antiquarians differ on whether the plague was a basic factor in the deficiency of the war. In any case, it is for the most part concurred that the deficiency of this war may have prepared for the accomplishment of the Macedonians and, at last, the Romans. The infection has customarily been viewed as an episode of the bubonic plague in its numerous structures. However, recontemplations of the revealed side effects and the study of disease transmission have driven researchers to propel elective clarifications. These incorporate typhus, smallpox, measles, and harmful stun disorder. Prior to the European appearance, the Americas had been to a great extent secluded from the Eurasian-African landmass. First enormous scope contacts among Europeans and local individuals of the American mainlands brought overpowering pandemics of measles and smallpox, just as other Eurasian infections. These illnesses spread quickly among local people groups, regularly in front of real contact with Europeans, and prompted an extraordinary drop in populace and the breakdown of American societies. Smallpox and different sicknesses attacked and injured the Aztec and Inca human advancements in Central and South America in the 16th century. This infection, with loss of populace and passing of military and social pioneers, added to the defeat of both American domains and the enslavement of American people groups to Europeans. Sicknesses, be that as it may, passed in the two bearings. Syphilis was conveyed back from the Americas and moved through the European populace, crushing enormous numbers. The Great Plague, 1665 to 1666, was an enormous episode of infection in England that murdered 75,000 to 100,000 individuals, up to a fifth of London's populace. The sickness was verifiably recognized as bubonic plague, a contamination by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, sent through bugs. The 1665 to 1666 scourge was on a far more limited size than the before Dark Death pandemic, a harmful flare-up of infection in Europe somewhere in the range of 1347 and 1353. The bubonic plague was just recollected thereafter as the Incredible Plague, since it was one of the last boundless episodes in England. Albeit the sickness causing the pandemic has verifiably been distinguished as bubonic plague and its variations, no immediate proof of plague has ever been uncovered. Some advanced researchers propose that the side effects and brooding period demonstrate that the causal specialist may have been an infection like a viral hemorrhagic fever. Presented above is a rundown of mortalities from the hour of the plague. The Plague of Justinian was a pandemic that distressed the Byzantine Empire, including its capital Constantinople, in the years 541 to 542 AD. The most generally acknowledged reason for the pandemic is bubonic plague, which later got notorious for one or the other causing or adding to the Black Death of the 14th century. Its social effect is practically identical to that of the Black Death. In the perspectives on 6th century Western antiquarians, it was almost worldwide in degree, striking focal in South Asia, North Africa and Arabia, and Europe as far north as Denmark and as far west as Ireland. The plague would get back with every age all through the Mediterranean bowl until around 750. The plague would likewise significantly affect the future course of European history. Current history specialists named it after the Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian I, who was in force at that point and himself gotten the illness. Current researchers accept that the plague killed up to 5,000 individuals each day in Constantinople at the pinnacle of the pandemic. It at last executed maybe 40% of the city's occupants. The underlying disease proceeded to obliterate up to a fourth of the human populace of the Eastern Mediterranean. Third pandemic is the name given to a significant plague pandemic that started in the Yunnan territory, presented above, in China in 1855. This scene of bubonic plague spread to every possessed mainland, and eventually slaughtered in excess of 12 million individuals in India and China alone. As per the World Health Organization, the pandemic was viewed as dynamic until 1959, when overall losses dropped to 200 every year. The bubonic plague was endemic in the populaces of tainted ground rodents in Focal Asia, and was a known reason for death among traveler and set up human populaces in that area for quite a long time, notwithstanding an inundation of new individuals because of political clashes and worldwide exchange prompted the dispersion of this sickness all through the world. New examination recommends Black Death is lying torpid. The Black Death, otherwise called the Black Plague or bubonic plague, was probably the deadliest pandemic in mankind's set of experiences, generally thought to have been brought about by a bacterium named Yersinia pestis, plague, however as of late ascribed by some to different illnesses. The beginnings of the plague are contested among researchers. A few students of history accept the pandemic started in China or Central Asia in the last part of the 1320s or 1330s, and during the following years shippers and troopers conveyed it over the banned courses until in 1346 it arrived at the Crimea in southern Russia. Different researchers accept the plague was endemic in southern Russia. Regardless, from Crimea the plague spread to Western Europe and North Africa during the 1340s. The absolute number of passings overall is assessed at 75 million individuals, around 25 to 50 million of which happened in Europe. The plague is thought to have restored each age with differing harmfulness and mortalities until the 1700s. During this period, in excess of 100 plague scourges cleared across Europe. This article is authorized under the GFDL on the grounds that it contains citations from Wikipedia. See also, 8 fascinating facts about plague doctors.